Good, right, so to get the fire going, we need a good amount of kindling. Now, a lot of people, they don't use quite enough. And the thing with the kindling is, what we've got to do, particularly with this stove, because it's on a, what we call a flue system, it's not on a chimney, we've got to force heat into the flue to get it warm, because warm air rises, right? So at the moment, if you were to light a fire in here, the smoke will probably want to come back into the room. So what we've got to do is we've got to force the heat into the flue to get the flue warm, and then it will pull the smoke away before we start to add fuel to it. So kindling and fire lighters is what we use to get the fire going initially. And we need lots and lots of air as well to get it going, right? So what I'm going to do is just stack a good tower of kindling like that. All right, so really that sort of height, something like that, okay? And then we use a fire lighter. I don't use paper at all, because paper burns out very quickly, and it doesn't stay lit long enough to burn the kindling. So I tend to use a couple of fire lighters like this. And what I'll do is I'll just light them. The fire lighters, these particular ones are really clean as well. They're really good fire lighters, so they don't create a lot of smoke. So I light them like that, get them both going. And then once those fire lighters have started burning, we just chuck them inside the tower like that. And then close the tower up so it's in contact with the flames. And I'm going to close the door like that. And the control is pulled fully out, right? Fully out. So we need as much air going into here as we possibly can at this stage. For the first couple of minutes, just leave the door shut while we're forcing a bit of heat into the flue, okay? So we need to get a little bit of heat into the flue. Just going to leave that slightly ajar. See, what I've done here is just left the door very slightly, just not open, just very slightly on the latch. As you can see now, suddenly there's loads of air rushing into the fire, because of course it's not sealed around here. So it's a bit like leaving your fridge door open. So by leaving the control open and just slightly ajar on the door, it just throws a little bit more air into the fire to get it really going away, to really get it cracking, yeah? It's a bit like pushing a car down a hill. It's a bit like bump starting a car. Once the fire started burning and the kindling started burning, and once this flue started to get a bit of heat into it, then we're on our way then, and then we can start to add fuel. The most critical thing though, and this is the most important thing, is when you're starting to add fuel to it, if you were to put something like that on now,
it's too big. It's
far too big, yeah. So if you compare that to a big piece of steak or a big piece of beef or something, I'm not going to put a log on it now, but exactly. So something like that sort of size here is a perfect size to get the fire going. So we really need to build up the log size nice and gradually. So you very often find that if people have got logs delivered and they're all a bit big, they might need to split a few to get a few smaller ones. So something like that there is an ideal size of log to get the fire going with, okay? Now, the critical thing as well is when you've got this stove here, you see the flue is very small and the door is very big. So when you open the door of the stove, predictably what happens, it's a bit like opening an oven. You get a massive whack of heat, but also you can very often get smoke entering the room when you open the door. So when I close the door like that now, because now it's getting going, make sure the door's fully closed. Never leave that for any length of time, just to get the fire going. But to open the door, you see it raw now? And then we open the door up and we just literally knock that tower down like so, add a log to the top and shut the door. Always get that door shut as quick as you can, because it's a big door, so you tend to get a bit of smoke entering the room if you don't shut it properly. And I've just blocked up that there at the back, so I just need to lift that forward. There we go. That's it. A little bit of smoke there, see. So it's just still warming up. Nice and hot, the flue though. It's nice and hot, so it's drawing really well. It's working great. So at this stage here, what I would do is let that fire get going, get the log burning really nicely, and don't touch that control for a good 20 minutes, half an hour. Wow. You need to leave that fully open in the boost setting until what we call the fire is what we call established. You've got a nice established hot fire, okay? Once the fire's nice and hot and it's burning away and it's really nice and hot and it's burning nice and intense, that is when we can start to turn that down. Now, this is important. What you never ever do is that, okay? Because what that's going to do, you'll see smoke start to swirl around in the stove, yeah? We don't want that. We want your flue outside to have no smoke coming out of it, okay? So when we go outside in a second, when that's nice and hot, when we go outside, you'll see that there'll be barely any smoke coming out your chimney. And the reason is because this stove is designed to burn the smoke off inside the fire. Right. But it needs to be burning at a high temperature. So what I always say to people is when you finish using the fire at night, and if you go to bed at 11 o'clock, let's face for example, do not put fuel on it after 10 and just let the fire burn out naturally and don't push that in. Right. Okay? Because what that'll do is your next day you get up and you'll have to clean the glass and you've got lots of bits in the bottom of the fire, lots of charcoal. What that charcoal is in the bottom is unburnt fuel. It's fuel that's not been burnt because you've forced the fire to go out. You've suffocated the fire. And that's what creates smoke. And we do not want smoke. Because what that'll do is, once you let the fire cool down, and you're forcing the fire to go out by pushing that in, the flue cools down and the smoke can come back down the flue and back into the room because it's cooled. So by keeping the fire hot until it's burnt all the fuel out, it'll burn cleaner, the glass will stay cleaner, there'll be less smoke entering the atmosphere, and you'll have no smoke coming into the room. Right. All good. Okay?
So you only actually push that little thing in halfway,
for instance? Once the fire's nice and hot, push it in so it's level with that lip there. And that is a nice temperature to burn it at, but not too soon. It's a little bit, if you turn your oven down.
That's what I did last night.
You did, yeah.
Because I want sure I want 100% on that, you know.
Yeah.
It was described to me